Alright, what's up guys? We're back with another Diablo 4 video here, and I've got some new legendary powers on my Druid here. I finally found a Trample Slide legendary power, which I'd heard a little bit about this, but I didn't know exactly how it worked, just that I've heard people calling it strong. I don't know what they typically take as far as building around it goes, uh, but it works really incredibly well with my build, since I can refresh it with Tornado. So let me just show you a little bit of the power of this build, and I don't even have optimized skills. As you can see, I'm still spec'd into Boulder, and I have 1 point in Trample from a piece of gear. None of the passives here. I can take out these 7 points and respec them into Trample. I'm probably gonna take out 4 of these points. I'll probably take out this. That 700 damage isn't really doing a whole lot at this point. Unstoppable, I think, is still necessary. Can't decide if I want to take, some points out of Hurricane or not and put them into some passives just for more damage. I also found a legendary power that makes your some werebear and werewolf skills. It makes them all function. I forget which, but one of them it makes as an earth skill, and the other it makes as a storm skill, or count as that type of skill when it comes to proccing Nature's Fury. So I may potentially put a point into Bloodhowl just because it's a huge heal, and if I can constantly be refreshing Trample and Bloodhowl with you know, each other, and also with my storm skills and earth skills, it's I just don't know what I would take out of the build, because there's a legendary power that makes your cyclone armor apply to physical damage as well, and I'm starting to notice I'm killing things faster and faster, but the defensive stats just aren't really keeping up, and I think a little bit of it has to do with maybe my armor is kind of low, because a lot of my gear is lower level gear compared to like some of the stuff I found in like the 20s and 30s, and now I'm in the mid 53. So a little bit of it is that, and I think another part of it is just the resistances are kind of worthless in this game. So really, I think the only viable survivability that has really any impact in terms of actually keeping your character alive is the just straight damage reduction abilities, and that's going to be Cyclone Armor here. So if I use that other legendary power that makes it apply to physical damage, that's going to give me a big boost from there as well. And then also I may take this, so I'm assuming that would give me another 15% damage reduction every time I use a defensive skill. So if I did have all 3 of these, even just with 2, I think I'll have near 100% uptime on that 15% damage reduction. This gets up to around 14 or 15% damage reduction potentially. I may even switch it over to this. I don't know how much of a boost in survivability it would give me when it's 20% of the time I have an extra 30% damage reduction. It's like if it's up at the right time, that's really effective. If it's not, it's not, it's almost useless. Hard to say. This, I may get this like level 3. Can't decide. When I do spec into this, probably after this dungeon, I can't decide if I will use the Fortify or the spirit generation because I can spam this a lot, and having that spirit generation outside. Same thing with if I had this. Like with these two skills, I could have almost unlimited, you know, like, or sorry, not that. Blood Howl. You can also generate 20% or 20 spirit. But I think if I get the Fortify, I can take advantage of some of the Fortify defensive stats, you know, damage reduction. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now for this build. I also think, let's see, there's a passive where I think when you shift out of werewolf form, where is it? That you gain damage reduction, and that lingers for 3 seconds after I shift out of werebear form. I retain that, so that would give me another 9% damage reduction for 3 seconds after I cast Trample, and I can cast Trample almost that regularly. In terms of Paragon, right now what I have, I think this is going to be good since the majority of my time is spent in human form, and I just use Trample, and so when I shift out of that, once I get this willpower bonus, that's another 10% damage reduction. So you can kind of see when you start stacking all that straight damage reduction, if it works the way that I'm assuming it works, then that's going to be a pretty effective form of survivability. Whereas, but you can just see how like this damage is ramping up. I was not killing things this quickly, and I don't even have the optimized skills right now. But you can just kind of see I'm just tearing through stuff. You know, as far as like my previous clear speed went, this is significantly faster, even with a slightly lower DPS weapon. And I don't even think I don't know if it's better to use a two-hander or a one-hander. I just happened to find the power on a totem, and the totem had really good stats on it. I'm finding I need just a lot of base stats. I don't really need the strength, but intelligence and willpower and potentially dexterity for my Paragon boards. So I need a lot of int to get this this unlocked, get that extra 10% damage and this extra 10% damage. So from all that int and these two Paragon boards, I'm getting 40% just global damage, and that's just insane compared to some of these other ones that you can get. I mean, like resist all elements, that's totally useless. This one, probably, you know, the armor and the max life, that actually would give you quite a bit of survivability. Like the armor nodes are actually somewhat tempting because armor seems to be the other best form of survivability because it applies to everything. But I've just been kind of stacking damage from my Paragon board, and then I'll get survivability. Like, it's soft core. I don't die very often. Just got a new glyph. Let's check that out. Just lightning damage. I do a little bit of lightning damage, but not enough to like spec into it. And I may even spec out of the lightning damage. There's another thing I want to show you here. So these boots, I will probably use these boots like until endgame. I think it's gonna I haven't decided what legendary power I'm going to slap on it. I'm leaning towards the +2 to Earth skills when you're fortified. That was another reason why I was thinking of potentially getting Fortify for Trample, just because I can cast it often enough, and having, I cast it 5 times and I'm going to be 100% Fortify. And then I can use that, between that and my barriers, that's going to be quite a bit of survivability. I think there was somewhere, and I can't remember if it's only for a werebear, but it's like if when you take damage, you gain Fortify. Or maybe it's an Earth one. Oh, yeah, only a 5% chance. So I mean, 15% chance. That's not as useful as I was thinking. So yeah, I mean, even just getting those points on Trample, like taking that one ability, that's gonna be quite a bit. Quite a bit of Fortify for very, very little investment. I still think for my build right now, just how it's working, that Storm Strike is probably the best. Just for 1 point, I get 25% damage reduction for 3 seconds. And then with these 2 passives, I get 15% chance to immobilize and 50% chance to make vulnerable. That's a lot for even though it's not like the basic skills, I just feel like they're not really that effective at damage, but that's a lot of utility. And then I have a lot of on-hit effects kind of tied to it. So it does, while I'm just standing there smacking stuff, it does a fairly decent amount of damage. But with these boots that I was telling you about, so they're a sacred boot, and it seems like when it's sacred, it gains a bonus to its innate stats. So it has 2 dashes, and having 2 extra dashes, which gives me 3 total, is kind of game changing, because now I can use dash offensively very effectively, but still have it to escape when I need to. My build is still a little squishy, which is why I was talking about starting to really look at more damage reduction and survivability options. Like, I have no problem killing anything, but if I lose my shield and tramples down and I get CC'd, I'm probably gonna die. But it's softcore, so like I was saying, not a huge deal. I don't worry too much about it. It's all about that clear speed. So as long as I can clear and not die too often, then that's really just the best way to go. So between Trample, my dashes, and Earth and Bulwark, I don't have too much of an issue just like getting out of the way of some of those bigger hits.
I'm not ready yet.
I really like Trample as well, just for the utility, because I can kind of like dive behind the lines, the enemy lines, take out those higher priority targets. And then it also just like, when it knocks them into a wall, I'm fairly certain it it stun. Yeah, it stuns for 3 seconds if I knock them into a wall, which is huge. So like you can see, I just dive in, start throwing out tornadoes. Trample comes back up. I dive back out, and I just kind of just shred their lines. They can't really keep up. And then I have, you know, just a lot of unstoppable with this build. I had a lot before, but I'm starting to run into the issue where my, you know, my shield was not as effective as it was. But now, not only do I have a much stronger ability to kill stuff with an earth skill with Trample Slide, so I can regenerate more shield with it. But I also have another form of unstoppable, and I can activate it and just get out, you know, of a bad situation if I need to. Really, the only way I can die is just if I get hit with like really high burst, which typically doesn't happen, or if I get CC'd and I lose my shield and tramples on cooldown. So even in those situations, sometimes I survive just long enough to pop a potion and dash out. But that situation doesn't happen very often. You can see here. Well, so like, as long as I can get out and not get CC'd as soon as my stuff comes off cooldown, which it does pretty quickly, I can just dive right back in, and it's, you know, I don't really even lose much damage or clear speed off of it. One thing, just because I'm just kind of rambling while I do this and show you the build, that I think Blizzard needs to add, take a page out of Path of Exile's book and add in some premium stash tabs. I don't really intend to pay for cosmetics. I don't, you know, I'm not about that in a game where I'm already paying a box price. And like the ones I've seen, like they don't really look better than what's already available in the game. Whereas in Path of Exile, like that was how you support the game, was like buying the packs. So I could at least look at it that way. Like, hey, I think this is a great game and I want to support it. Like I already dropped, you know, a decent chunk of change just buying this game. But I understand, like, to me, there's a lot of value in stash tabs, because I understand that you have to pay for like storage space to host, you know, servers, and the more and more stash tabs there is, the more data there is to host. So like I can kind of understand and justify, like, hey, if I want to have this convenience of more stash tabs and more inventory space, then did I get the codex? Okay, so I wanted to get this codex just so that I can apply it to gear. I'm starting to go through the codex and just see what I need, what I want. I'm really starting to look more in depth at the rares that drop, so I can save those for Codex of Power gear. I think that's kind of the point I'm at in the game. I want to change a lot of these gear slots. Like, I want to change my amulet. I have a stronger version of this power on a chest piece. I have a couple other chest pieces that I think are better than this for my current build. This is still pretty solid in you know, I could get a better legendary power. The issue I'm running into is that all these pieces of gear, for the most part, I want to switch out, have a lot of intelligence, and I need that intelligence. And then they also have a lot of willpower, which, excuse me, it's kind of late. A lot of my damage, it seems like willpower is a pretty significant source of skill damage, and almost all my damage comes from skills. So I feel like as far as stats on gear goes, I'm starting to focus more on, or affixes on gear. I'm starting to focus more on the actual like stats. Like what I thought was good on gear early on in the game is now like what I thought was bad. You know, like the stats kind of seemed insignificant early on. Now the stats actually seem really important for your Paragon boards. And I've kind of noticed that the way that this game is made and designed is it's almost like two games in one. So you have like your casual version of the game about level 1 to 50 in either World Tier 1 or World Tier 2, and the story mode. So like once you complete the story mode, then it's like you have the option to go into the second game, which is more geared towards like hardcore grinding, you know, veteran players. So you've got like the end game, you've got your Paragon board. Now you're really working on fleshing out your build. You go into World Tier 3 and World Tier 4, and you're starting to focus more on just like gearing and that sort of thing, which I think is interesting. So yeah, see, I'm just getting like all these damage nodes. I'll probably get some of these like +7 int nodes. I'm just kind of beelining to the second board because there is, let's look at it real quick, kind of what I'm planning, what I think is going to be pretty sick. So I think this board with this legendary node, I'll be able to poison stuff, and then there is a legendary power that makes your I don't like how sometimes like some of the towns don't have everything in it, or it's just the layout is bad. Like I wonder if there's I would prefer a way to set just like a default town that when I teleport, like I'd just rather go to Kyovashad unless I specifically like set the pick the waypoint. But let me show you. So there's this legendary power where damaging a poisoned enemy with a werebear skill will instantly deal 120% of the poison damage and consume the poison. So now that I have Trample Slide, that's a werebear skill. So if I unlock that legendary power, I mean, I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but the way that I am anticipating that I would assume it works is like, let's say I hit them with a nature magic skill, and it does, let's say, just for the sake of math, it does 120, it does 100 damage. So they get poisoned for 120% of that, which is 120 damage. And then I hit them with another Trample Slide, or another Trample, because it's a werebear skill. Now it's gonna damage. It's gonna take that 120 damage. It's gonna apply it instantly. At, you know, if I had a max of that at 150%, that's gonna be 100. It's gonna increase that 120 damage by another 50%, so it's gonna, and then it's gonna instantly do 180 damage. So I feel like that's pretty strong. Like that's almost, you know, maybe not quite doubling your damage, but very, very, very close to it. So, boom, gonna get another 5%. Um, I'll just show you here what I'm thinking I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna spec out of this. I don't know how much damage this gets. So this gets a pretty significant amount of damage per point. And then I was also thinking it's probably worth it to level this up as well, now that I have a way to activate both. So I may spec out of these. Probably gonna spec out of that. I'm not sure if this is still worth it. I may take that point out. So we've got 14 points right now to kind of play with. There's just it's getting more challenging to kind of figure out what I want to get. Because I'm realizing now, leveling this and this, that's about all of those points. And I'm almost thinking that it's worth it to spec out of this too. I really think I might. I don't think this is doing quite as much anymore, because I'm mostly just spamming tornado and trample. So a 25% chance and then a 30% chance. It's not yet. I think we take those points out. Probably take that point out. So all that does is increase the duration a little bit. Doesn't increase the 10%. So I think that is probably just more of like a 1 point wonder. To me, this is really solid. It's like an 18% damage boost to anything that's distant, because most of the stuff I'm damaging is either slowed, stunned, immobilized, or knocked back. So yeah, I mean that's pretty significant damage increase if I put points into that. And then if I put points into that too, because now I have multiple ways I can activate or proc this from tornado. I almost wonder if this is the better way to go now. Just get more vulnerability from that. And I can't tell. So this gets what? Man, that's not terrible. It's hard to get everything that I want. Cuz maybe it's not worth it to level this up. So at max, it's a 13.7, and 1 point is 10%. So yeah, I think that's a 1 point wonder. You know, I almost wonder if it's better to get the Fortify, because how often I cast it now. That might actually be the right choice here, and we start getting more Fortify, and then when I start getting gear, slotted defensive gear, I can put in the stuff that gives you more damage reduction with Fortify, because that's not only is that going to increase my health, but it also increases the effectiveness of your barriers. So I think now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking that's the way to go. So we'll do that for now. I don't feel like I can lose any of these skills. I mean, I could take Hurricane off. And replace it with Blood Howl, but that's not gonna increase like my clear speed at all. I can still proc Hurricane with Trample. The only other thing I can really think of is if I were to take like an ultimate. That would really be the only other thing that I think would give me a really significant. So we still have 14 points. So what if I max this? It's 113 instead of 83. So I mean, yeah, that is quite a bit of damage. So we go from about 1800 to 2500, 75 to 105. That's pretty good. And we still have 5 points to kind of mess around with. I mean, that's tempting. That's like 4 points. That would be 4 points. And then where was that werebear skill? Yeah, I mean that would be 4 points. So that's gonna give me the most damage reduction. And then maybe I put that last point into this. I just don't think that's gonna do very much. I mean, I almost like this just for the utility because it destroys destructibles. And then when I get a few more points from the from finishing up the challenges on the world map, I can put them, I can respec into something else. I think that's probably the right call. I really wish that you could have more skills. Yeah, I'm just gonna get that for the utility right now. So let me just go back out and let's check. Let's take a look at some of this damage now. But yeah, I was thinking, you know, with the Fortify and the +2 to all Earth skill power on the boots, I mean that's pretty huge, because what it's gonna do for me is it's gonna give me another +2 to Trample. It's gonna give me +2 to Earth and Bulwark. It's gonna give me +2 to Landslide. I mean, it's gonna give me +2 to Earth Spike when that procs. Like it's not massive, but it's a little bit. It'll be +2 to Boulder, which can proc. So I mean, that's a lot of extra damage on some of those skills, and then those ones that proc just kind of randomly, like that's still more increased damage on those as well. So I know this video is getting long, starting to get kind of long, so bear with me. pun not intended. There is another dungeon that I wanted to do, which if you didn't know this, I'll probably make another video about this. If you want to get figure out where the dungeon is, if you where is it? I want in some of these powers, like this power, you can't find a stronger version of it. So like doing this is going to be the same as if it drops for you. But this is what I was looking for. So if you click on the power you want, it will actually mark it for you on the map. And so you can figure out, there's actually a hell tide going on here right now. Let me empty out my inventory real quick.
This will do nicely.
So I've started to sell stuff just to start stockpiling gold, because I have a lot of materials stockpiled already. And weapons like this, I don't think that's worth, no, it's probably not worth anything. But you can see that a lot of this stuff's starting to sell for a really high gold amount. And if it doesn't have,
I'll take it off your hands.
if it's a weapon with lower DPS, it's pretty much
Greetings.
just vendor trash. On the armor, I do have to look a little bit closer, because it may be something that I want to keep to upgrade to a legendary power. So let's go jump into this hell tide. How much time is left? Oh, it actually just started, so but the hell tides, I think, are probably the fastest way to level at this stage in the game. because you get, you know, that extra 5% from, like, if you just find a group of people and run around with them and kill stuff. You get the 5. Oh crap! Almost got one shot.
I'm not ready yet.
But you get the 5% from that, and then you get the 5% from using a consumable. So I mean, it does seem like respecking is making a bit of a difference here. So that's the reduced damage buff. And we got our Fortify. So that, you know, that's always good.
I must wait a moment.
Damn. That's a lot of damage. This one's challenging just because you have to stay in the ring, and I can't really use trample. Until the kid stops. Alright, we got the mastery. Alright, so we'll go ahead and we'll end the video here. This is kind of my most recent build update that I've got. If you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, I'd appreciate it. It helps me out if you're still watching at this point and you enjoy the content. So thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching. And remember to give them the D.